David Byler, thanks for joining Sky News Your World. Now, what exactly did the polls get wrong?
Right. So results are still incomplete, but it's fairly clear that there have been a few misses in the polling averages across a wide variety of the key swing states. So Florida in particular stands out as a state where Biden was favored and Trump won by a comfortable margin. Texas is another state where Trump won by a wider margin than expected. And in these key Midwestern states like Michigan and Wisconsin, it seems as if Biden's margin is much, much thinner than the initial pre-election polls had thought they would be. There are a couple bright spots. Georgia appears to be close, as was predicted and forecasted. The results in North Carolina also seem to be close. So it wasn't, failures across the board, but there were some significant errors in the states that matter the most.
Why? Why were there errors?
That's a great question. That's a question that we don't fully have the answer to at this point. There are a couple theories sort of floating around. One possible theory that has been batted around is that voters who have low sort of social connection are less likely to pick up the phones than other types of voters, and that may lead to a systematic miss. There's always the possibility of late movement. But really the strange thing is that some of the measures that pollsters took to correct for bias in 2016, for instance, adding education to their weights to capture more white voters who didn't have a college degree, that seems to have not prevented these polling misses. So in some cases, we're just going to have to wait and see and unwind what all happened over the weeks and months to come.
Do you think there should be a change in the way the polls are presented? Should certain disclaimers be given around the source, the methodology, the margin of error, etc.?
So in my view, at least, I think the generalized media has done a better job in 2020 of presenting uncertainty around polls in 2016. But I can see why it's still confusing to have that. I think that, honestly, the answer here is more statistics, not less. There are a lot of sources of errors in polling. It's not just the statistical sampling margin of error. It's the time in between when a poll was taken and when the election actually happened. It's the potential differences between the electorate that a pollster envisions and the real electorate that might end up showing up. There's all sorts of different effects that can matter in these polls. And so I think taking a more rigorous statistical approach, which is something that I try to do and a lot of others sort of in my world and in my sphere try to do, and finding a way to put that sort of larger error band front and center is going to be helpful for people to understand the real uncertainty surrounding all these surveys.
So how concerned are you about the public's trust in polls, which was already low after the 2016 election? And what's the impact of the public's distrust in polls?
I am concerned about public trust in polling, and I'm concerned about polling error. I think that the survey research industry needs to, do work and figure out what went wrong, as does the forecasting industry need to figure out if there are things that went wrong with our models and our end of this whole situation. I think that it's potentially bad when people don't trust polling as much, because polling isn't all about the horse race. It's also about finding out where people sit on individual policy issues and what it is they want from their government and what it is they think and how they feel about the situation in the country. And polls aren't just political either. There's public health applications. There are so many different areas in which survey research is used that a generalized loss of trust would be pretty bad news in a number of areas of American life.
All right, David, so given recent experiences, how will you cover the next election differently?
That's a great question. I think that right now we're still in the period where we're just getting results, and I kind of have my blinders on for that. Once we have full results, then I sort of am thinking about picking up the pieces and how I can continue to improve communicating uncertainty, communicating exactly what a poll is, and help people just understand that these aren't numbers that are handed down from on high, that are flawless. These are part of a careful, designed intelligently process, but still human process that is fallible, and that everyone needs to sort of work to both make better and understand.